Hello everyone, this is Ching here. Welcome to another mind map. Today I want to talk about communication skills, and let me just briefly explain you what lies behind my motivation. First of all, I think communication is the most important foundational skill that will lie behind your success in life, in career, in the way you build relationships and approach others. Um, I obviously work in different capacities that leverage communication, primarily being a talent acquisition partner. I know that communication is the most important skill in my line of work, but also in understanding and how to work with others and how to discern the talent. Secondarily, I do have some coaching clients where I help them with their communication skills, and I want to just kind of briefly talk about all these sections, like why is this important, what to look for, and again, that's primarily for probably people who are maybe right now looking for jobs, right, and they want to understand how talent people are thinking about communication, how to develop your skills, and some of the common mistakes, and we can talk. I will just share some books that I think were critical in my journey. So first of all, why is this important? Everything is communication, right? And I like this quote by Tony Robbins. Communication is power. Those who have mastered its effective use can change their own experience of the world and the world's experience of them. That's very interesting, and we can talk about this a little bit more. Like, how do you perceive, how do you experience the world, and how do you make others experience you as a being in this world, right? Will be defined by your level of communication. All behavior and feelings find their original roots in some form of communication, right? So when we talk about how we experience the world and how the world experience them, means us, right? We can break it down into two kind of things, right? It's internal communication and external communication. And internal communication is the most important one, because communication with yourself. How do you have this internal dialogue, right? Why is this important? Uh, Quality of life is defined by the quality of your thoughts, right? And this comes also from the research of Brian Tracy, right? He says, like, he mentioned this in one of his books, like, what is the commonality among all the rich and successful of this world? Obviously not the ones who've inherited wealth, right, but those who've built wealth themselves, right? They all have a very rich vocabulary, right? And that's, again, speaks for the complexity of your thought. Complexity of the word gives you the complexity of the thought, right? When I say, like, inner dialogue, inner narrative, there are two kind of pathways that not the two pathways, like, but I would say there are two extremes of how it can go right and how it can go wrong, right? With people who've mastered their internal communication, it's an inner game, right? You're using your communication in your mind as a navigation tool, right? And there are different ways of how you can develop. We can talk about this, but you can use affirmations, you can use NLP, neuro linguistic programming, right? And program really your mind through the language, right? And once you've done this successfully, all this work, right, you rise yourself to the level of unconscious competence, right? Like, when some of your decisions, they are made almost like on intuitive level, but it's not just because. So, for example, right, we affirm ourselves that we want to be confident, but once your confidence becomes unconscious, you just go out there and behave without, like, thinking and processing, oh, how do I need to be confident, what do I need to say, and how do I need to react and behave and present myself to the people. On the negative kind of side of extreme, when you do not take control of your inner narrative, it's just a mental chatter, right? Or, as we call it, like, monkey mind, right? Some kind of talk on the background, always on the back of your mind, right? And obviously, we do not choose what thoughts will pop up in our minds, but we do choose what we feed with the energy of our attention. That the thoughts that come to our mind, they're pretty much random, right? But we do choose what we're focusing on, and when we focus, we give the energy of our attention. We say where Where attention goes, energy flows, right? I like this expression in English a lot. Like I lost my train of thought. Why do people use this expression, train of thought? I think the analogy here is very, very, very accurate in the sense, like if you imagine yourself standing on the subway station, looking at a subway, each thought represents a wagon, right? So the train comes, and you're standing, and you can basically stand and observe how all thoughts come one by one, but you're the one, like your awareness, that's you, right? You're choosing which wagon to jump in, right? And then you jump in any wagon, and this train will take you anywhere. But it is, again, it is the energy of your attention. It is your choice. Which wagon, which thought are you choosing, right? People, if you do not make this choice, if you do not, again, reprogram your mind through language, right? Your your monkey mind becomes a crazy app running towards the cliff, and you become a slave of the mental chatter that you have. You do not use it as a tool. We'll be talking more about this for sure. So there again, we talked a little bit about NLP here, neuro-linguistic programming, different tools and techniques and methods of how to program your mind through the language. Right, language is basically the operation system of your mind. Right, I want to use some of the tools today, just to kind of set the context for the conversation. These are called presuppositions of NLP, and there are some of them that's very important to understand for the sake of setting up this internal communication with yourself. Number one is, we do not react to the reality, only to our perception of reality, right? And here comes the concept of mental filters, right? What does that mean? Like, and again, coming to the quote of Tony Robbins, right? Experiencing the world. The way we experience the world, we absorb the information. The information comes from external world into our minds, right? And it goes through certain so-called mental filters, right? The information, distortion, deletion, generalization, and personalization. The information that we absorb from the external world can be distorted, right? Like we see the events, not the way the events are, but the way we are, right? Some of the information is being distorted by our personal biases, but our beliefs of what's possible, what is impossible, some of our previous life experiences. If you look into your memories, our memories are never accurate because they go through the second mental filter, deletion, right? Some of the elements are being deleted, and that's for example happening with very much with some of the negative memories. We tend to delete in our memories some of the negative elements of them, and that's a very interesting phenomenon, right? Like, as you revisit your memory every time, as you progress through life, like something happens, and like down the road, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now, you will be coming back to that memory, right? Just by the very fact that you're coming back to that memory, you will be changing it, right? And every time it will be different. Generalization, like our mind is kind of, we're built in that way, right? Our mind functions that way, that we are putting things into buckets. We categorize things, right? And this is how we make sense of this world, right? Okay, like all the apples in one bucket, all the oranges in another bucket, right? But it comes like with a kind of with the dangerous side of it, with the dark side of it. For example, racism, right, is a very, very amplified version of generalization. When we have certain experience, certain perception of model, and again, I don't know. I don't want to sound racist here, but it can be like with anyone, like with white people, black people, brown people, yellow people, right? Like, but that's a whole different conversation. But let's say you have an experience with a person of a certain race, right? And this experience was far from great, right? It's easy to say after that, hey, those brown people, those black people, those white people, those people, right? you're associating your individual experience with that individual single person and putting it into the bucket, and then um, into the bucket, into category of a race, right? And this is how you generalize things afterwards, right? So really, like I give racism as a very very amplified, very strong form of generalization. Personalization is another mental filter that we use, that occurs to us, right? We just take things personally, right? Whatever happens to us in external world, we're like, oh, things are happening to me, right? And there are many different examples of this, but like saying, blaming God, blaming society, blaming upbringing, blaming parents. That's one example of that. But like, why these things are happening to me, right? This kind of locus of losing control, right? It can occur. So I don't want to go too much into depths here. I just want you to have like a basic understanding of these mental filters, right? So that all information that comes into your mind that passes these filters, and your understanding of the event is it's not far from the reality, right? But it's different, right? So you do not react necessarily to the reality, but to your perception of the reality. How is that important? Is that this is the foundation of that internal communication. Rephrased in a different way, we all navigate this world using our maps, and maps are like basically your system of beliefs and life experiences and values and understanding what you are in this world. But this kind of principle of NLP and the principle of coaching as well, the map is not the territory, right? So we have these maps, system of beliefs, knowledge, and life experience, and you use your map to navigate in life. And your map is unique, like every person has their own map, right? But what's important to understand with this concept is that we can learn from each other, right? We can meet and we can talk and exchange ideas and complete our maps to be more effective in our navigation, and eliminate elements that are either redundant or maybe actively harmful for us, right? Those are like limiting beliefs, or those unhealthy beliefs, dysfunctional beliefs, right? Knowing that the map is not the territory, it's also interestingly like the second principle kicks in here. When you use your map long enough, right, your map becomes the territory, right? And so all these three things work really together. So for example, the reality of limiting beliefs. If you believe that something is not true for you, it becomes not true, right? You know this quote, right? Like if you believe you can do, you can do. But if you believe you can't, you can't. And that's true, right? For example, beliefs around communication, right? I meet people who are in a similar roles with mine, right? Counseling, coaching, and I mean in the profession that relies heavily on communication, but they do not have the belief that they're strong communicators, right? And then how do they act and perform? Well, their performance and action is according to that belief, right? If you are, again, due to my profession, if you're like on a job hunt, right, or looking for a career transition, if you believe that you're not a strong communicator, if you believe you're not a strong networker, how will you go, and how will you first, how will you present to the world, and again, how will you make the world experience yourself? I want to select this part, right? How do you make the world experience you if you do not have this, again, inner game, inner narrative sorted? So I spent quite a lot of time here. I just want to kind of emphasize here how internal communication is it should be the biggest focus. Like when we talk about communication skills, we need to think about internal communication a lot. Right? How do you communicate with yourself? What's your inner game? What's your map? How do you calibrate your map? And how do you move forward? We're going to be talking probably in other maps. I'll create a different map for NLP specifically, and NLP presuppositions, right? But let's switch gears to external communication. And this part is like, once you get this sorted, this is pretty straightforward, right? Communicating with others. If you're a strong communicator, it opens up the whole world of opportunities, right? You're building relationships with your family, with your friends, with your partner, right? It's collaboration, definitely. It's work. All the projects that are people doing right now, from scientific breakthroughs to like pure business, right? It's hard for one person to pull off. You wanna do something significant. You work in teams, right? So collaboration. When we talk about new opportunities, strong communicators can be invited for speaking gigs, right? You can leverage your communication skills for knowledge facilitation, for example, running workshops, right? Or creating creating materials like this, for example, like this video, right? Just talk about stuff and teach what you know. Job hunting, that's for sure, like something that's many people are interested in, right? Hard skills get the job done, but sorry, I made it little typo here, but it is soft skills, and again, I don't like the word soft, but like it's the foundational skills that secure the job. It's really your communication. We will be talking about this in what to look for in this section, right? And advancement, obviously, how do you progress and move in life? Very interesting, right? Like for people who want a promotion, for example, it's not so much about being a hard worker, and of course, like your results matter, but it's also very much about the relationships that you're building with the people, who with the visibility as well, right? Towards the people who matter, who are decision makers, who are like important stakeholders within the company. So, how do you advance in your career? How do you even if you work for yourself, what kind of projects you are able to pull off? It's strongly dependent on your communication skills. All right, so we're done with this section. That was lengthy. What to look for? Here, just want to share like a bit of my perspective as communication coach and as a talent acquisition partner. Like things that I focus a lot in the conversation whenever I speak to candidates are all this stuff. First of all, is the vocabulary, and we talked about the size of the vocabulary, right? The richness of the vocabulary and how the person is able to, especially the active vocabulary, how the person is able to tap into that and operate with this vocabulary. All right, we'll be talking. Will be kind of an evidence for the complexity of the thought of the mind, right? Precision, flow, coherence, cohesion, control, speed, depth, and listening skills. Right, let's talk about each one of them a little bit. So vocabulary, we talked about the size, right? If you think about it, a child of age of 3 will be able to recognize about 1,000 words. For everyone who's like me, like an ESL speaker, like learned English as a second language, right? We would look into like these two kind of milestones for ourselves. 2,000 words. If you learn 2,000 words in a foreign language, you can cover 80% of daily conversation, right? And there are some people who learn English with TV series Friends, right? If you just cover the vocabulary that they cover within the whole series, right, you pretty much will hit this benchmark of like maybe 2,500 words, 3,000 words. 3,000 words will cover about 90% of daily conversation. So you will be within this area, and you will be able to have a basic conversation, right, in English. Average native speaker will have about 9 to 10,000 words in active vocabulary. That doesn't necessarily mean that this is something that they will be using actively on a daily basis, right? But mostly like in a kind of able to recognize. Wall Street Journal. Like in all the also data somewhere that Wall Street Journal has been using like about 20,000 words in all their issues, and Shakespeare had a vocabulary of 25,000 unique words, right? So really, I just wanted to present this to you so that you could kind of have an understanding of where you could fall, and that really, like Shakespeare we use as a benchmark, right? But modern day Shakespeare, maybe Eminem, like you can see like what his communication skills look like, right? Like how like not communication, but probably like vocabulary size, right? Uh, where he's at and how he's able to juggle with words. Okay, so that was vocabulary. The the number of words that you have there like will be very much defining the quality of your communication. Precision. When we talk about precision, what do I mean by that, right? We think in effectiveness and efficiency. When we think effectiveness is like, are we doing the right things? How effective is our communication? How can we influence or impact others? The simplest example that we can take is quotes, right? I don't know if you're if you're anything like me, you're probably like studying some quotes on a daily basis. Like I'm a kind of quote geek, and that would be very very noticeable. But why do I like it? It's specifically for the effectiveness of communication, right? You can look into you can take a phrase and it's short and it's punchy and it's memorable, right? And what's the important element for me here is the influence, is the aspect of influence. How does this like short punchy sentence influencing other people? And in terms of efficiency, right? Can you say more by saying less? Yes, having rich vocabulary is great, but how can you use it efficiently? Can you give the complete picture and like make sure that you heard and understood, right? By saying less words. That's the precision of communication. Next thing I'm looking into, and again, that's kind of all the things that I'm looking into when I'm with the candidate on the phone, right? Flow, how fluid the speech is, and that why is this important? Because your flow will define all these three things. Primarily, the comfort the comfort of the listener, right? We want to, and that's just the way, and just like physically how we design. Like the ear is designed, and the ear is designed and connected with the brain, right? We gravitate towards what's pleasant. We want to listen to nice voices, nice sounds, nice music, right? And we want to, and when the musicality component of your speech is basically defined by your flow, right? The ease of comprehension, right? We cannot. It's harder to understand a speech that is scattered, that you know sounds like a machine gun, right? But there's no like an actual flow, right? There's no smoothness to it, right? It's easier to comprehend something that flows, and also flow communicates inner speed, right? The way people communicate can tell you a lot. How do they feel inside? How does their mind what's their inner flow, right? And how does their mind basically again speaks to itself, right? So that is flow. Coherence and cohesion basically come from writing, but the idea is absolutely the same. When we talk about coherence, whatever the person says to me, right, like it says to you, right, is it easily understandable? Do thoughts flow smoothly, right? Are they logically connected? Are they relevant to the central focus, right? Everything that we use in writing, like these two terms, coherence and cohesion in writing, they are applicable to the speech as well, to the verbal communication as well. When we talk about cohesion, tying the words, phrases, and sentences and paragraphs together, like are they connected nicely? And that's going to affect your flow, right? Are the relationships between ideas clear, right? Can we connect all these small different ideas and in a bigger idea, and a bigger idea, be a bigger idea? So that's sort of the logic behind the mind maps that we're using, right? Once we organize everything like this, and that's probably partially my motivation. Like once you get this sorted on the paper, you can get it sorted in your mind, and you can go and you can explain it to anyone. Control. What do I mean by control? Right? We control our. How do we control our intonation, pitch, and pauses? Right? Primarily, intonation. Why is that important? Right? Intonation is coloring your speech with an emotion, and an emotion it hides the meta message. Like what's not being said, what's not in the kind of text and the word, right? And like verbal words, but what's lying underneath, right? And that's very interesting here. Like I want to give you like two concepts of the golden trifecta. This concept comes from the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? But by Dale Carnegie. But the golden trifecta is how do you build relationships? You instill the feeling of importance and safety, and we're going to be talking a lot about importance and safety later on. But the golden trifecta are these three things. You know, if you want to instill importance and safety, right, you use these three. You need to make sure that your communication covers appreciation, courtesy, and respect. Appreciation, straightforward, appreciate people, right? But again, don't flatter, but be specific and say like what exactly you're thankful for, and communicate gratitude, and that again comes with meta message. You need to actually feel gratitude in order to communicate appreciation effectively, right? Courtesy, that's just being polite, right? Be polite, say the nice words to each other. Respect, again, that's meta message. How do you feel respect for the person, and then communicate it in speech. Charisma, the concept of charisma, I love this book, The Charisma Myth by Olivia Fox. Very, very, very straightforward idea, but one of the foundational elements of charisma is warmth, right? And that's kind of different from all the things that we've discussed here. But to communicate warmth, you need to have these three things, right? Again, gratitude, goodwill, and compassion. Gratitude, again, on the meta level, you need to feel it in order so how do we come across as warm people, right? We need to communicate these three things. We need to feel them, and that's how do we communicate them on the both like verbal and non-verbal level, right? Gratitude, communicate goodwill. I want the best for you. I come with the best intention. I'm a friend, right? And compassion, right? Understanding, we're not perfect, we're all human beings. Like, please forgive me for this presentation. Like I'm doing my best, but definitely that's not gonna be far from perfect. And we're all learning on the way. Like life is a journey, right? Like let's it's complicated enough. Let's try to help each other on the way. If you have all these kind of components blend and fuse together, right? You will have the warmth. You will be charismatic. You will be able to integrate this into your meta message and emotion, and that will be reflected into your intonation. Can you control it? You can control if you know all these things, right? And if you understand how these affect people. Pitch. This is very simple. Low pitch, high pitch, right? Low pitch. Interestingly, we perceive people with low pitch as people of authority, and people with high pitch, obviously, we perceive as some state of exaltation, right? Authority, that's very simple, right? Like the voice of God is Morgan Freeman's voice, right? And we can almost people who are familiar with his work can hear his narration, right, in your mind. Or sometimes, like for the sake of joke, you can even narrate what you see with the Morgan Freeman's voice in your mind, right? High pitch, exaltation. Again, that's very interesting. Intonation and pitch and flow, like inner pace. The way we communicate very much can tell you about how what's the inner voice, like what's the pitch of the inner voice, and what are the intonations of the inner voice of the human being. Pause, and that's very important. The cornerstone element of comedy, right? Are you able to handle tension, right? And that if you control yourself within the communication, and you can deal with pause, and you can be comfortable with that, right? But also be comfortable with people who are holding a pause, right? In your communication primarily, are you able to hold a pause and make it organic, and make it use it mindfully and use it intentionally? Use pause as a tool for creating tension, and that's going to be critical for your storytelling. And storytelling again is everything. If we go to this example of job hunting interviews, passing the interviews, right? Not only that, like marketing, sales, everything is a storytelling. Can you tell this story? If you want to tell the story that captures you and engages people, you should know how to control tension. Speed. Again, speed of word. In many cases, it's not always true. I need to emphasize that it's not always true. But the speed of word tells you the speed of thought. If the person can communicate very fast, it shows like how fast it shows their inner speed, right? It shows the speed of their inner speech, right? How fast do they think? It's not always true, and this is why I want to talk about this. That another thing that you need to always think about, it's the depth of the message communicated, right? Yeah, you can speak fast, but you can speak nonsense, right? And it doesn't make you an effective communicator, right? But if you speak fast and your ideas are thoughtful, right? There is depth in it. Then the speed at which you generate this depth, that speaks a lot about how your brain functions and how fast it is, really, right? So look into like these are things that should go hand in hand, speed and depth together. So when we talk about depth, I don't know, you'll probably hear this word a lot at an executive level, right? When they talk to their candidates, when they're hiring for executive teams, for example, right? Like, oh, this candidate, she was so thoughtful, full of thought. How much thought do you put into the things that you say, into your communication, right? So what is the thought behind the communication? It comes a lot with your ability to ask questions, because when you ask questions and you assess the quality of the question, right? We are looking into like, what is this person trying to find out? What kind of the information they're trying to extract? And this is a big element in the like a part of the interview, right? Phone interview, and for any kind of first, second, third round interview, we're looking into like, what's the curiosity here? Like, what's the person trying to understand, right? The depth of your question shows the depth of you as a person, and the complexity of your mind. So think about it, food for thought. Listening skills, right? Listening. When we talk about listening, the foundation of communication is listening, and this is what I talk to people who are like, oh, I'm not a strong communicator, I'm an introvert. Introverts, and I truly believe that, are very, very strong and exceptional communicators, right? Why? Because you have this natural aptitude towards developing great listening skills. You're attuned. You're in tune with yourself, listening to your inner self, and and that helps you to understand and focus what others people are saying. And this kind of three levels of listening, like internal listening is focused on self, focused listening focused on others, and global listening focused on the context, right? Again, internal listening focusing on self, like whenever the person is saying something, how do you internally react to that? If you allocate a certain portion of your attention to that, right, that's basically what you're doing. That's how you develop internal listening, having awareness of how do you react, what kind of biases kick in, what kind of thoughts are being evoked by what other people say. Focused listening, you focus on others, right? You this is, for example, listening for information, right? When we are studying, when we're listening to a lecture, how absorbed we are. But the higher level of listening would be a global listening, right? Having this in the back running, and this process is running, being focusing on yourself and focusing on others during communication. Global listening, focusing on the context, what is not being said, right? And that's again reading the non-verbal communication, body language, facial expressions. What is underneath? What is the person is saying these words, but what is he actually trying to say, right? That's the higher level of listening. Not many people. It's not accessible to many people, right? Can it be developed? Yes, that's the great news, right? But how do you get there? How do you get from not just listening, okay, listening skill, but like actually listening to understand the person, what's going on in this person's mind and with this person's soul. That's global listening. So again, what to look for. These are the things that like kind of criteria how I can assess communication when I work with clients or when I work with candidates. All right, but this is a simple framework that's not just even a framework, but just like some notes that you can take for yourself when you observe others, right? And that brings us to like how do you develop your communication skills. Number one skill that you need to develop to excel as a communicator is observation, right? Observing others and like how people communicate and just watching them, right? Why? It gives you awareness. It gives you awareness of how you communicate, right? How can you develop this? You can develop this with meditation. What meditation will give you, meditation will create a distance between you and your thoughts, right? And you're not your thoughts, right? You're thinking your thoughts. Like thinking that you're a pink elephant doesn't make you one, right? Thinking that you're a successful person doesn't make you one, and thinking that you're a loser doesn't make you one. It depends how much you how much energy you invest in each thought and amplify it, right? What thoughts am I thinking? That's awareness. That's mindfulness, right? And meditation is it's a simple technique. Meditation, right? And probably another one, and that's kind of sorry, I'm gonna delete this one. Another tool is breath work, right? Mindful breathing. You can install an app and or just watch videos and just breathe in slowly, right? Through your nose, exhale through your nose, 5 seconds in, 7 seconds out, like hold for 3 seconds. Simple breath work, any kind of breath work, any kind of breath work will increase your awareness. It will bring you to the body. If you do it daily, it will increase your observation skills. You will develop as a communicator, right? And also like this allocating the portion of your attention towards like how do you react to others, this internal listening that we talked about, right? This will increase your awareness, and you will become a stronger communicator. Meditation, breath work are foundational. I don't want to continue here. Vocabulary. How do you develop your vocabulary? Reading and writing. Well, very what did I do? Reading and writing. Very interestingly, like if you think about it, reading is like riding a vehicle of thought, right? Whenever you read a book, what's a book, right? The book is a person. All the thoughts, all the best of the best thoughts that they had, they combined, assembled, organized, and put for you in the physical form. And as you read them, you are basically following all the thoughts that they have, all the thought patterns that they have. This is why I would give this as an example, right? You're writing a vehicle of thought when you read someone's book or writing an article, right? Whereas writing is like driving your own vehicle of thought. As when you write, you learn how to navigate written communication with precision, right? How to drive on your own, how to generate thoughts, how to organize them afterwards, right? These two things, they're two different techniques, but they're very, very important. That's where journaling kicks in, right? Understanding your minds, understanding what works, what's not, and how can you improve it. How to develop control, right? Singing, poems, reading out loud, right? Singing, as again we talked about it, right? Your vocal cord, it's like a musical instrument, right? You can play a musical instrument in different ways. Like you can be a beginner level player, you can be an intermediate, you can be advanced, right? And you can be an expert level, right? Like voice coaches or professional singers, right? They use this. It's a form. We can say that it's kind of a musical instrument for itself, right? Your vocal cords. They've polished to perfection the way they use their vocal cords, right? And this is why they can integrate a sense of the sense of not integrate, but evoke the sense of musicality, right? And when you're singing, that's obvious, but when you speak, right? Can you make it more musical? Can you make it more pleasant for the ear, for the listener? Right? I say I'm not a singer, of course. Okay, that's fine, right? You can use poems, right? And I'm pretty sure, again, if you're an ESL speaker, it's probably in your own language, even if you practice this, that's going to translate later into your communication in English. Reading out loud is the simplest way, like how to practice your control. If you speak too fast and you know that speech is not smooth, slow down. Like like on YouTube, you can click on the video and bring the speed down a notch, like from 100% to 50%. Try that. If you're too slow, try accelerating. Right? Control your pace, control your intonation, and control your emphasis. Where do you put pauses? What do you emphasize? How do you speak as a TED speaker? I think there is a book as well that didn't include here in resources. This is how you practice control. And real life practice is the more important thing that you can do. You want to be a stronger communicator, go and communicate. Communication, and this is gonna be, again, supporting your new identity, right? You want to be a strong communicator. What strong communicators do? Well, if you think about it, they do all these things. They do observation, they enrich their vocabulary, they practice writing, they practice control, right? They present, and also they practice all those things. Go for informational interviews and coffee chats, right? And learn something about something you've never done before. Like connect with people you've never met before, from different industries and walks of lives. And public speaking, right? Present on stage, right? Maybe perform on stage, perform music and sing songs. Content creation, podcasts and videos like this one, for example. And again, partially that's the motivation behind the creation of this video, right? Like I want to develop, I want to grow as a communicator. Mastermind groups, connect with like-minded people, right? Who want to develop themselves, want to be better communicators, more effective. And maybe if you can't find a group, create one, right? Like be the leader and connect your friends and try to do something. Lunch and learns, maybe within the company, maybe just with your friends. Book club, right? Like, hey guys, let's read this book, let's connect and let's discuss. Communication games, like there are so many, right? Any kind of board game is essentially a communication game. Real life collaboration at work. How can you make approach your projects that you're doing right now through the prism of communication? How can I improve communication here? How can I break down the silos, especially in this kind of remote work setting that we're experiencing right now? Coaching, right? You don't need to be hey, I want to build a side business as a coach, and you can be a coach like if you are helping your best friend with listening and asking questions that would provoke insight, not giving advice, but asking the right questions that will elicit the right kind of response and the right kind of thought work. You're a coach, right? That's what you can do. Have conversations with people that matter to you and help them to go deeper and uncover the things that probably not work, or maybe it can work better. If it's not coaching, it can be mentoring, right? If you're more experienced, if you know something better than others, uplift others, teach something, and as you teach, you will practice your communication skills. So that is it. I think everything is pretty straightforward, super obvious. I want to talk shortly about common mistakes, right? What are the common mistakes in communication? Many people do. Let's go through them one by one. Talking too much, right? Talking too much, again, it can come with different things. Talking too much about, like I'm talking too much, but I hope I'm talking too much and I'm staying on the matter. I'm not like don't stay on the matter. Don't digress. That's very especially important is when you're again on the interview, right? Why? Because the lack of precision with your speech, your unfocused speech, shows that your mind is unfocused. You're not able to stay on the matter, and that's not the kind of professional people want to hire, right? You want someone who is precise and sharp mind, sharp communication, right? Making it all about yourself. What does that say? That's not even in the interview setting, but like interview settings probably should be about you a lot, right? But also like when you just build relationships and you talking with your friends and you like always I, whenever you say I, that's your ego talking, right? Whereas you will see it from experience. People who've successfully tamed their ego, there will be very little I, and there will be a lot of curiosity about you as a person. Here's a little rule that I'm personally using. Maybe you will like it. Yeah. There is a saying in my language: if your mouth is open, you're learning nothing new, right? And truly so, right? When your mouth is open, you're only regurgitating things that you already know, right? If you want to actually learn, you close your mouth, you shut up, and you listen. And ego is the enemy, right? In many things, but primarily in this one, you're not interested. You're not like how to be. People ask how to be an interesting person. If you make it all about yourself, you're not an interesting person, because to be an interesting person, you need to understand what the other person is interested in. And in order to do that, you need to ask questions and you need to get to know them, right? And it's kind of common sense, but yeah, I just want to make a little note here. Talking too little. Why is that a problem? You don't give the other person, you give the other person nothing to work with, right? What does that lead to? Zero engagement or disengagement, right? There are people like that. You ask them a question, they give you like a 2-3 words answer, and then they say nothing. And you dig deeper, and they say nothing. They say little. You dig deeper, they say little, and then like this, it's just frustrating and exhausting dynamics. And eventually, what's gonna happen? You're just gonna disengage. You're gonna say like why do I need to talk to you? I can go to talk to someone who is interesting, who can like tell me more and about themselves. Don't make that mistake. And again, making it all about yourself, not asking questions, right? What does it mean? If I don't ask, when we don't ask questions, when we're not interested, it communicates lack of interest, and that's again tied to our golden trifecta, right? The feeling of importance. You want to be a strong communicator. You want to create this influence and impression. You need to make people safe. You need to make people feel important, right? You cannot make someone feel important if you're not interested in them, right? And you do not communicate interest if you don't ask questions. Ask questions, but ask appropriate questions, and that's another mistake. When you ask inappropriate questions, it's not having tact or manners, right? And we want to be friends, and we want to be close with people who have manners. Manners make us men, right? Kingsmen. But that's it's not just Kingsmen. It's just a principle of life, right? We want to be friends with highly educated people who have tact. Not listening. You ask a question, but you're not listening. And that's again, you're not a strong communicator if you did not master the listening skill, right? What does that mean? Not listening with an agenda in mind. You ask a question, and the person is responding to you, but there is like this not tamed monkey mind, untamed monkey mind, this mental chatter that is going on in the back of your mind. Blah 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 blah. Okay, he's gonna say that. I'm gonna say next, and that is not listening. Listening again is being fully present in the moment, giving your presence, giving your full attention, right? Being mindful and being thoughtful. Listening with an agenda in mind, and that's noticeable. Person will notice that you're, again, if they have the necessary awareness, they will notice that you ask a question, you don't listen, and that's an indication of like listening with something with an agenda in mind. It's an indication of a noisy mind, right? Indication of a noisy mind. If you have a noisy mind, if you don't have clarity of thought, and if you don't create this spaciousness for yourself, which you are, right? You're never going to be a strong communicator, because you will never be you will never be fully present for the person there. It communicates lack of interest. If you're not listening, you're not interested. If you're not interested, the other person feel unimportant. Okay, not being authentic. That's like it's just not a mistake in communication. It's a mistake in life, right? What can happen here? Why people are not authentic, right? Primarily, they don't know who they are and they don't know what they stand for. And there is a saying, right? Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything, right? sometimes you like lack of authenticity is a result of like not knowing who you are and your values and your mission and what you stand for, and it's just lack of work on yourself and spending time in quiet reflection and meditation and journaling and all that jazz. People are like we are designed in that way, because all the we say it like all the communication, not all the communication, but 75% of communication happens non-verbally, right? Body language. We sense the lack of authenticity. This is how just we're built, right? Lack of authenticity is a communication message by itself. It communicates ill intent, right? If you're not being authentic, there's something else is going on there. Something in the some kind of intention that is not true, and that here you're killing the feeling of safety, right? And if you're killing the feeling of safety, if the person feels psychologically unsafe to share their vulnerabilities, to share what their thoughts, it's a threat lockdown, right? We sense threat, we lock down, we shut down, right? And if you can't open the person, how can you be effective in your communication? So, authenticity over everything, that should be the motto. And last one, I just want to say here, like, thinking that you have strong communication skills, that is one of the most common mistakes, right? Thinking like, no one says like, oh, I'm not a strong, I'm not especially in the interview, right? Saying like, I'm not a strong communicator. Everyone thinks that they have, not everyone, like some people are quite humble, right? But many people say like, oh, I have exceptional communication skills, verbal and written, right? But is that true? I love this quote by George Bernard Shaw: "The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place," right? And that comes on both ends, right? When the word leaves your mouth, like, does it land where it's supposed to? And then when the word is being spoken by another person, does it land in you where it's supposed to, right? Only where these words land in the right place, where they were supposed to land, right? Where the intention was driving them, right? This is where communication can happen. The truth is, it's rarely the case. It's it's not. I don't want to say rarely the case, but it's challenging in a sense to create truly effective communication when people understand each other, right? And this is why it's so important. This is why we're looking into it. This is why I think. This is why I coach communication. This is my motivation primarily, right? But I think this should be a quest for each person, and truly excel. Because if we are all effective communicators and we all can understand each other, right now we we do not have telepathy. We cannot understand each other without saying words. Like verbal word, written word is the best we can do in order to understand each other. Then how much disagreement we can avoid if we all are excellent in our communication. Some of the resources, just some books for you to dig into, to read. Like, again, you don't need to read. You don't need to necessarily like go and like start reading all of them and voraciously read. But a little life hack: just read through the summaries, understand the conceptually what are the main key points, right? There's an application called Story Shots, or you can just watch YouTube, right? And then understand what's the book about, right? And if you really like it, if you think like, oh, this is something I want to have this transformational journey of actually going from first to last page of the book, right? Go through it, right? Definitely, if you're into communication, into perfecting your communication, this is something that will be helpful to you. All right, I hope it wasn't too boring. It was a long shot, but thank you for being here. I wish you a lovely day, and I wish you to continue your journey of excelling in your communication. Enjoy and communicate effectively. Bye.